Card Market is Europe's largest platform for all TCGs. Always find the right cards by buying and selling them across Europe with other players and collectors. Be it singles, boosters, booster boxes, or any other accessories, you name it. Card Market is the place to get them safely, securely, and readily available.
What's going on, guys? This is Demian from The Lookout, and I'm joined by Andreas, our new face on The Lookout. Andreas, say hi.
Hi, everybody.
So we are starting to do podcasts. Yeah, this is our very first episode, and Andreas, our co-host, is going to introduce himself a bit more, talk about himself. I think that some of you might be able to relate to him because he's also a recent player to the game.
Yeah. So, as stated by Demian, my name is Andreas. I live in Denmark, born and raised. And I have been a vivid card game player for almost all of my life. I started out by playing Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was 8, moved into both Pokemon, as you do, Magic, Vanguard, back to Yu-Gi-Oh! And as of, I think it's 3 months now, I moved into Dragon Ball. And it is such a different case from the other games. It's amazing, it's fun, it's fast, it can be slow, but it's definitely a whole new case to play in.
Yeah. So speaking of a whole new case to play in, the topic of today's video in preparations for Nets and Finals is your first big event.
Yeah.
Because Andreas recently had his first big event, which was, I'm proud to say, Zenkai Showdown.
Yeah, my first event was the Zenkai Showdown in Poznan, I think it's pronounced. And it was a super fun event, I had a lot of nerves on to play to go to this because I was super new and I have put a lot of my resources and a lot of my time into like playing. And I have found the deck I want to play. I played Yellow Trunks Geta, which has been one of my favorite playstyles. I have now moved over to the Yellow Piccolo superhero deck, which is a little more my playstyle because it's less restrictive and more fast-paced and more inclined with the Zenkai series now. And we're going to talk about the preparations of it.
Yes.
What I did to prepare myself for this event. Even though I may not be the best example because I didn't do very well because new series, new cards, new set a couple of weeks before the event.
So guys, we're going to, as Andreas mentioned, we're going to give you like some bullet points for your first event because Nets and Finals are probably going to be the first big event for some people, whether you're new players or you're returning or current players. A big event is always someone's first event. So let's talk about this. As Andreas said, let's start with first thing, preparation.
Yes. And the best thing you can do in your preparation is figure out what deck you want to play.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be a meta deck. It doesn't need to be the biggest tier 1, tier 0 deck you have to play. You have to figure out what you're comfortable playing with because if you can play your deck well, you're still a super dangerous player for other players because your confidence is going to help you a lot in the long run. The second thing is, of course, research.
Yeah.
Research what do you want to play? What's the best version of your deck? What's the alternative to things you're playing? As a good example, I didn't know if I wanted to play Flying Nimbus or what's it they call with the turtles on Forbidden Power. As they do the same kind of thing in general, but they are different in the way they interact with enemy decks. I went to play with Nimbus because it was the card I had most confidence in. I know when to play it to get the most out of it, and it worked super well for me. And I then, of course, sideboarded some Forbidden Powers.
Let's take. We have a couple of points here. So going back to preparation and research go hand in hand, guys.
Yeah.
So, and as Andreas mentioned, right now we are playing finals. Europe is playing finals with the current ban list, with the newest one. but not with Zenkai 2. The US is playing with Zenkai 2 set and the newest ban list. So both of our regions are entering into an unknown territory when it comes to deck. So in preparation stuff is, as Andreas mentioned, you will be told what are some of the best decks, of course. But it's also important that you go with the deck that you're most comfortable with. For example, we had a guy from Germany, Philip, who came with Mr. Roshi. I called Mr. Roshi absolute garbage in my tier list. He went to an event that was filled with red, and then he topped, into the top 16. So knowing your deck, preparing properly, is a huge step towards doing well on big events. And Andreas here can say a bit when it comes to preparing and training for the event, because training is also a good part of the preparation and research.
Well, the way I went to it was like playing as much as possible with the deck I want to try everything out, try using the sideboard a lot in different decks, played around 3-4 hours whenever I had time for it. I didn't have as much time as some other people might have, which was a hurdle I had to get over, but I felt comfortable in my deck. I know all of my deck's effects by heart when I went to the tournament, and then immediately dropped everything because I got intimidated, but it's fine. But I did a lot of preparation. I looked into new decks, I looked into what was the meta, and I tried to play against proxies of this. I tried played with friends who played off meta decks to know how to work new cards into the situation if you hit different kind of colors. The problem that hit me a lot was of course that the new Senkai set dropped a couple of weeks before the event, and I didn't have time to like thoroughly study it, so I got hit with Gogeta and Shin Run, and I got hit hard. So I think the best thing I could take away from this in form of research and preparation is get comfortable with your deck and research new cards, research what is coming out. Again, the finals are gonna get a little more effort in this because they're not gonna be working with Senkai set 2, so they only have to take into advantage, I think it's the anniversary box set, right?
Yes, it's gonna be the anniversary box. So don't be I want to add to preparation. Don't be afraid. Find someone. Play with your friends. Play with other people, of course. Yeah, play with other people. Who you think are. If you can, play also with people who play off meta decks. Play with some of better people from your locals, like more competitive, to get the feeling of the full spectrum. Because not a lot of people will go to these events to compete. It's different for US because US has invitations to the finals. In Europe, the finals are opened, so a lot of people will show up. Not everyone's a hyper competitive player, but wants to try out this. And the thing that when it comes to training that I wanted to mention is in this period, don't be afraid to proxy. If you can, find some like Scrap Games has amazing locals every Friday where people are allowed to proxy in preparation for the finals. So don't be afraid to proxy if you are from the US. Or maybe if you're from Europe, don't be afraid to use platforms such as Antep to test out new decks, things that aren't out yet, that. But I want to touch on the thing that you have mentioned, and that is the feeling of intimidation, because I think that we can talk about this a lot, and that's something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yes, the feeling of intimidation I felt going to like Senkai Showdown was kind of big until I got to the event, and then I kind of relaxed a bit because I saw a lot of people, but I saw a lot of people, not a lot of players. The problem is that the second I sat down against my first opponent, which was Gogeta, and I was like, okay, I don't know what this deck does. I don't know what how it works, so I need to be very considerate of how I play. And that intimidation of the new deck and this player who played fast and played ruthlessly because he knew his deck was enough to topple me topple me completely. I had no chance at all because I overthought my game strategy. I saved counter spells for too far in the game and got hit with the Gogeta you need to use your super combos for, and it was a tough one. It was super much a tough one. The problem also with this kind of strategy and also this kind of intimidation factor is that if you play against something you might get too relaxed. This is the other side of the coin. I hit this when I was playing against a relatively new player as well as myself who played the Cell starter deck, premium starter deck. And I knew how it worked. I knew when I have to play my cards. I knew how to do anything about that. But I got too relaxed and almost lost that as well. But I managed to turn it around because of the Gohan Piccolo SCR in the game. So the intimidation goes hand in hand with being too relaxed. You need to be prepared. You need to be confident without being overconfident in yourself and your skills. And this can be a tough one, especially when you see a lot of players, when you have to play 5-6 rounds. And for me, especially because it was best of one. As a card player who have played a lot of other card games, best of one was probably the most intimidating factor because it meant I have to look through my sideboard every game. I need to be prepared for whatever is getting thrown my way, and I need to know what he's playing. And when a new set just came out, it was intimidating for me, so I almost didn't use my sideboard in other games than against the Green Gotenks trial deck. Then I knew what I had to do. I knew I had to play a lot more counter attacks, and a lot more destruction on the board to get that out of the way.
I'm thinking also when it comes to this intimidation factor is it's not just for some people. It's what you've mentioned, the feeling you sit down, you're playing against an opponent who is who's an extremely good pilot of the deck. He just knows. I've used to play with some people at events who would those were some of the weirdest game where you would just sit and both of players are just quiet. There's barely any communication because both of them know their decks, perfectly what's going on. But anyway, another intimidating factor that can happen, and for example, I'll use myself as an example, is the finals are going to be my first big live event because we don't usually have events of this size in Europe because COVID is the first one that I'm participating in. I've used to cover them before, but and I want to talk a bit about this the social aspect as well, because especially for some people, going to locals is one thing, and while it can be fun, it can be intimidating for some people to show up. Finals are going to have 256 players there. It's a massive event. It's a whole bunch of people. I understand some people might not be super relaxed. Some people might have anxiety issues, which these circumstances don't really help. But still, it's important to not be. What can happen is that people can be intimidated by the sheer size of the event, the sheer volume and importance of the event that they are attending to. And the thing that I'm trying to, the point that I want to make to you is just go there to have fun. Remember that if you are feeling anxious or afraid or intimidated by the event that you are attending, rest assured that there are other players who are experiencing the same thing as you are.
Yeah,
it's that feeling when you when you do something for the first time that's like a group activity. Not a group activity, but when there's a lot of other people. A friend told me that it's that feeling that some people experience when they're, let's say, they go to a gym for the first time, and you feel this intimidation, okay, there's so many people and everyone's but reality, a lot of people are going through the same thing, and
Yeah.
they don't care. So don't feel intimidated, by the sheer volume of people and of the event. Everyone wants to do well. So
Exactly, and I met this kind of intimidating factor because playing a card game as DBS is you have to follow some rules.
yeah,
I played against some new players as well who made the mistake of drawing the card before uncharging their energy and untapping their battle cards, and immediately begin to apologize because they have apparently been threatened. It's a hard word, but they have been told that they're not supposed to do it like that,
Yeah.
and if they do it again, they're going to be punished for it or called judged on them. That's super harsh because, and as one who have played Magic a lot of times, this is a total real thing. This is a thing some people do. Some players would try to hit you with the
Just roll shark, you
surprise judge, yeah, because you didn't untap before you drew your card, so you have skipped your untap phase, so you can't do that.
you put your energy wrong, facing. It's not inverted, man. Like judge your loss.
It's horrible, and I'm not the person who's gonna call judge on that. I'm the person who's like, well, of course, just do it in the other way. It's not gonna affect me. It's not gonna affect you. Let's play. The other side of this was a player who played Gamma 1 and 2, and Gamma's energy way of converting energy is kind of funky for me. I haven't really got my head around it, but it's something where he have to put some energy in the graveyard and then he gets some energy back. This player did this wrong the first time, apologized, and I said, sure, do the thing. The turn after he did it again, wrong, he apologized, he said, okay, it's fine. The third turn in a row, he did this wrong. I said, like, well, I want to stop you now because you have made the same mistake 3 times.
Yes.
This time it's going to stick.
Yes.
He still won, and the only reason why I was kind of hard on it was because you have made this mistake 3 times, you have apologized, you have did it in another way. I didn't know if it were giving him any kind of advantage by doing this error, but the third time I saw I was still losing, but I was like, hey, you need to not do this, so it's going to stick this time. And he of course just said, well, it's fine. He apologized, it's fine. We continued playing, we had a good game. I got curve stomped. We shook hands and went our separate ways. It was a fun experience because you could see that he was kind of affected by it still, but not in a angry or bad way.
Yeah.
And I think that is also like a good way to go into like one of the most important steps in these kinds of events. It is, don't be a rule shark.
Yeah.
Don't shout for the judge whenever.
I think that it's okay. The thing that you've mentioned is when it came to raiding energy and stuff, it is okay in my opinion. Don't be afraid to call the judge, but it's with some people it's going to be a bit different. But this point is going to be a bit different. But what I wanted to say is it's okay to, if you feel comfortable, to make takebacks, to ask for takebacks, as long as it's a step where like you charge the wrong thing in the energy or you accidentally over comboed by 5k or something, it's fine. If you do like Koitsukai and then you figure out that you screwed yourself over, and then like that's a bit
But you also need to take into account that you're playing an event that is a competitive scene.
Yes.
So if your opponent says that's a no-go, the table has caught it, it's land on table, it's gonna resolve like you have played it.
Yes.
You have to say it as well. It's always, if you're ever in doubt of anything, call the judge.
Always call the judge. Yeah.
Don't be an asshole about it, but always call the judge.
Speaking of calling the judge, and this is semi-related to big events and the feeling of intimidation and stuff. When we were in Zenkai and Zenkai Showdown, at the start of the event, for people who weren't there, I've announced the judges for the event. Turned out that the judges they went to play the game, so you can still call them. You know where they are and everything, but we didn't expect, so many. There weren't that many judge calls, but judges were occupied at some of them, which led to a situation where someone started calling judge. This happened multiple times, and because either judges weren't there for some reason, because we had one Milos who was a judge, and we had like some judges in reserve. Like they're players who have judged locals before, but they came here to play. They're here if everyone is occupied, and there were situations where people they were like either occupied, or for some reason someone would shout judge, and like 3 of them would turn around, backup judges, because they're either playing, and they would point to me. And they're like, okay, Demian, they're calling you, go and judge them. That's terrifying. Like, I don't feel comfortable, because when I got there, it was like, okay, please be simple. Please be simple. And they're like, oh, it's simple. Okay, thank God.
Or it's the ruling of counter on, what's it called? Dormant potential something. And you still have to pay the full. And people had different opinions. And that would be from me as a new player to all of the people who know the game, who play the game at this event. If you want to help, if somebody calls judge and you see it and you want to help, it's fine, but you have to be completely secure in the ruling before you advise on it. If you're not a judge and you want to help, it's fine, but be sure that what you're saying is correct, or else you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to make some players very annoyed, some players very angry, because they're going to feel cheated out of opportunity, because some of these people take events, even like events like Showdown, very seriously. And I could feel that. I didn't go into this with super serious competition. I prepared myself. I had a competitive, up-to-date deck with my SCR in it, with all the key cards for the color and everything. But I didn't go in and think I wanted to be top 10. I wanted to play. I wanted, as I told you at the event, I want to go to Poland. I want to go to Poznan. I want to play, and I want to get some swag, and I want to go home and brag to my friends that I traveled to play a card game. So to make sure that everybody has the best and optimal time when rules are introduced, be sure, if you want to help, that you are correct.
Yes.
If you're not sure, wait for the judge.
Yes. Yeah. And for these events, we will have official judges on the floor judging. So it's always best to confirm with the judge.
Yeah.
And I'm going to point this out, because this happens every single time at a big event. This happens every single time. If your opponent is swinging at you and you have 2 lives, and you say no negates, and he out-combos and plays the Hiddenite Supreme Kai, the Kai.
Kai or
the Kai Super...
Champa.
No, but not Champa. No. Just Kai. Because Kai says you may give double strike.
Gosh.
It's always in that case, if your opponent, don't be a dick, just, assume he's giving it double strike if you just comboed his entire hand.
Yeah.
This happens every single time. The best way to avoid it is just play Champa instead, because Champa needs to give double strike anyway. And I don't believe in, the argument, well, it's good to have options. Like, no, you never play these cards to have options.
No.
Like, when are you going to place it? Like, I don't want to double strike you.
No, but that is also some of the most important takeaways that I had from this event. You are going to meet people who are going to play complete competitively, who is going to take advantage of every mistake you make. And that is also okay. That is also a viable playing style.
It's the best way to learn.
It is a really good way to learn. If you are playing in your friend groups and you want to go back to preparation and research this, if you want to prepare yourself for this, make your friends you're playing with play brutal with you. If you make a mistake, it sticks. If you over combo, it sticks. If you tap the wrong energy, it sticks. Everything. Because some player, if you're unlucky enough. Some players going to do that to you at an event.
Yeah.
And at finals, I would imagine more players than average would be like that. And that's fine because it's a competitive scene.
Especially because these finals, in European finals in Netherlands at least, I'm not sure about the US. I think US wants have this as well, where if you get into top 128 in Europe, you get €100 travel voucher.
Yeah.
People will want to get to that 128 at least. So expect, for the first couple of rounds, there might be some people who, are going to take this event more seriously because it is the biggest event in Europe.
Yeah.
So play, like Andreas said, play with your friend who will judge you, brutally on all of your plays. It's the best way to improve. But I want to segue into our next section. I'm pushing product away. Like Bandai, forgive me. I'm like, okay. So go buy anniversary boxes. This is very cool product. Anyway, so I know that we just spent a lot of time talking about. So we segued from don't be intimidated into like a very intimidating portion.
It is.
But I want to segue again into our next point, which is try to have fun. Like at the end of the day, we're playing this game to have fun. And despite, the don't be intimidated, despite everything rules related, which I can imagine to some like new players might sound like, oh my god, like maybe this is a mistake. It's not.
I would say follow my example. Follow my example of this. Prepare what you can. Be ready with what you can. Take the trip. Get some swag. And then brag to your friends that you went out to play a card game.
Yes.
Because that is what it is. That is why we play. A lot of us play to have fun. A lot of players try to go out and get stuff, other stuff. I took this trip just to get some cool stuff home, to brag to my friends, get some special cards, get some boxes, whatever, and had a good time.
Yeah.
That is it is the essence of it.
And I have to say, everyone's there to have a great time, mingle with people, talk with them. Like we have a very good community here in Europe. From what I've experienced, I have only good words. Like I think one of my highlights from Poland is, what's one of my highlights from Poland? The Friday evening.
Getting into the hostel, meeting random people. Are you going to Showdown as well? Yes. Cool. Let's go hang out. It was fun. It was amazing, and people are nice, and people are super open because we're all nerds. We're all card game players. We all just love the game. We all just love Dragon Ball. It's so you have things in common. It's not hard to make friends.
Just also bring a deck whichever you feel most comfortable with. I might get some slack from my team members because they're like, dude, like we need to top this because the entirety of competitive team lookout is going there, all of us. They're like, Demian, like, god damn it, play something competitive, please. I'm trying to explain to them that Knockout Strike Gogeta with Bardock's crew is the best deck in the world in a best of one format. They're like, no, shut up, you're gonna play Sin Shenron instead. So, but don't be afraid to, just take whatever you feel most comfortable with. It's not a rare situation. I mean, in the last metagame, you always saw like two decks, basically. But it's not a rare situation where, a deck comes out of the blue and it just tops. It doesn't win, but it tops sometimes.
Again, Master Roshi. Which is a super fun deck. I personally really like it.
Mr. Roshi is. I was so harsh on it. Like we have a viewer, Nino. Nino told me every single time now that you make a tier list, I'm just gonna comment Mr. Roshi.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like Demian, Mr. Roshi. But the event is soon, at least for Europe. Like the event is very soon. And I think that we have covered everything, for preparation wise. So just to run through our bullet points again, prepare. do your research, play with your friends. If you're going there to compete seriously, ask your friends to judge you brutally, like no takebacks, mistakes are heavily punished, because you will run into people who will play like that.
Yes.
The closer you get to the top half of the event, the top half of the pairings, the more competitive people you will encounter, and you will end up maybe in some of these situations. I like to think that there are always, players who, as players, we are above that. We are like, okay, some things are fine, but like I said, Koitsukai, and then the opponent figures that he screwed himself over. It's like, oh no, that's a no-go. Don't rule shark, people. Remember that. Think as Kai has, you must give double strike. Kai always gives double strike, and have a great time. I'll be there. I'm looking forward. My highlight of the event isn't to get into top 120. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, my team members. I don't plan to, carry a lookout to top 64 or something. My plan is there just to go and meet people, and that's my highlight for our finals event. Yeah. And you can buy premium anniversary boxes there. So it's pay 20 euros for shipping. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, any closing statements? Have something to say?
No, I don't think. I think we went quite well around that. But it's super important to enjoy the trip. If you're taking the trip, enjoy it. Get the best out of it. If you have a losing streak or you think it's gonna be bad, go out and get something to eat, something nice to drink. Do something. Enjoy the trip and have fun. Get some collectibles home and brag to your friends. That's more or less the biggest message.
And remember, if you need any cards for this event, if you're from Europe, you can buy them from our sponsor Card Market. Link is in the description below. So go and check them out. We won't have Zenkai 2 legal, but we have on Card Market, we have a stock of everything. So well, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this. This is our first podcast ever. We're just getting used to this. I promise we will get better over time. So
maybe
we will attempt to
be better
next time. Yeah. Well, that's it, guys. This has been Demian and Andreas from The Lookout, and we'll see all of you in the next video.